5 long years. That's how long CJ spent in Liberty City, running away from something. Since the tragedy that changed Grove Street forever, the death of his youngest brother, Brian. We all know he was haunted by guilt. But what if that guilt wasn't just the grief of a brother who was far away? What if the official story of an accident or gang fight is just the tip of the iceberg? Today we're opening up the old San Andreas files and digging deeper than ever before to finally solve this mystery. Before we get lost in the maze of theories, let's stop for a moment and look at the facts. What did Rockstar actually give us? The answer is almost nothing. And that's exactly what's genius. Brian's death is the engine that drives the whole story, the reason for CJ's escape. But the details are deliberately left in the dark. Throughout the game, CJ's guilt is almost palpable. We all remember his words, "I let Brian die. I let Brian die." Sweet shoves it in his face as soon as he returns, accusing him of running away like a coward. From those difficult conversations, we learn that the tragedy happened in 1987, 5 years before the beginning of the plot. What was confirmed outside of the game was that Brian was just a boy, only about 10 years old, and that's it. There's no mission, there's no tape, there's no hidden document that says, "Here, this is how Brian died." It was this gap that created the perfect ground for one of the longest-running and fiercest debates in the history of the GTA series. The simplest explanation, the one most accepted, is that Brian was an accidental victim. He was simply in the wrong place at the wrong time. The ballast probably carried out the attack on Grove Street, and Brian, an innocent victim, was killed in the crossfire. This theory makes perfect sense in the world of San Andreas. It fits into the story of the constant war for territory and the brutality of street life. Killing a child would be the biggest blow to the morale of the Grove Street family's CJ's fault in this scenario. It's survivor's guilt. The guilt of the brother who was not there to protect his neighborhood and his family, thereby indirectly allowing the tragedy to happen. Well, this is where things get much, much darker. What if CJ's line, "I let Brian die," wasn't just an expression of grief, but a literal confession? This theory says that CJ was there, and his role was crucial. One of the most popular scenarios among fans is that CJ was supposed to babysit his younger brother. Maybe he even took him with him on some petty job for the gang, thinking it wasn't dangerous. Maybe he turned his head for a second, was careless, and Brian ran into the road or found himself in the middle of a shooting that CJ indirectly caused. This theory does a much better job of explaining why Sweet's rage is so personal and sharp. He doesn't blame CJ just for leaving, but for running away from the consequences of his own actions. If this is true, then CJ's entire journey to redemption takes on a new, more difficult dimension. He's not just fighting for Grove, he's fighting for the forgiveness he can't give himself. No San Andreas mystery is complete without a good old conspiracy theory. This idea says that Brian's death was neither a coincidence nor a simple tragedy, but a calculated move. The question is, who would have a motive? Suspect number 1, CRASH, namely Tenpenny and Pulaski. We know that for years they manipulated the gangs, stoked the fire just to maintain the chaos and their power. Johnson's child murder? When we put everything on the table, which theory holds water? While the plot with Smoke and Ryder is incredibly intriguing, it feels a little too complex for what is, at its core, a deeply personal story about guilt. The most logical and realistic scenario actually combines the first two theories. There was almost certainly a ballast attack, but the key detail is CJ was there. Maybe not right in the line of fire, but close enough. Perhaps Brian, a 10-year-old who idolized his older brother, was running towards him or following him just as the inferno began. CJ, then a drooler himself, may have taken cover in a panic. Maybe he froze. Maybe he just failed to react in time to save his brother. This scenario explains it all. It explains why everything is remembered as a gang attack, but at the same time, it also explains the deep personal guilt that CJ carries like a stone in his soul. He wasn't just absent, he was present and feels like he failed at the most important moment of his life. His escape to Liberty City was not only an escape from grief, but an escape from himself. Brian Johnson's death is a masterstroke by Rockstar's writers. It is a mystery that will never be officially solved, because its purpose is not to have an answer. Her purpose is to set CJ on his path to redemption. But hey, that's just my analysis after digging through all these clues. Now I'm interested in what you think. Which theory is the most convincing to you? Was it a random tragedy, a direct mistake on CJ's part, or the first move in a grand betrayal? Write me your theories in the comments. Did I miss something? Be sure to mention. And if you like this kind of in-depth analysis of the GTA world, you know what to do. Subscribe, because we're just getting started. Thanks for watching.